guys and girls, Emma again. Welcome back to the spare room. Welcome back to another video in this Patreon series, I think. Next thing on this, while we're waiting for other bits, is a cooling pump. I got onto EJ Winter or OB Bolton scale models in Sydney, in New South Wales, and asked about this pump that was in the catalogue. Now, didn't get a lot of information. And I'm not sure castings are available, but he did send a plan because this is all he had, which is awesome. I've sort of been looking at it, and it's hard to visualise just looking at the plan like this, and that's all I've got is basically a page. But I 3D printed one, and this is what it looks like in full size, the same as the drawing. And it's quite a smart looking thing. Probably not a bad model on its own. This model though, this engine is 3/4 size in the plan, so I thought, well, let's print one out and see how 3/4 size looks. And to my mind, that's going to be probably nicer and plenty of flow, and the thing's only got to trickle through, so it shouldn't have any problems at all creating enough flow. So that's what it looks like. So got a bit of bronze bar and some other offcuts and things. I think enough stuff to do it. So first job really will be to make a cover. Which is this piece on the top here. And this is the picture here. It's fairly basic. There's no actual dimension on the full size here, on the drawing. As far as I can make out, this drawing says 2 3/8 across here. The notation's pretty bad, but and it's got a boss that's 15/16 diameter on the drawing, so if we scale that, it's less than 2 inches. 1.78 is a third, what's that, it's a 32nd over 1 3/4. So I guess the thing to do is to machine this down to that diameter, and long enough to get this piece and this piece out of it. This is 1/2 inch, which is 3/8 wide. This one's 3/32 and 3/16 is 9/32. 210 thou, something thick. If we machine that down and parted the 2 slabs off, probably before we do that, we're going to put the boss on it and drill it and tap it, and then we can part it off and turn it around and hold it by the boss and machine the back of it, and we can put the holes in it, etc, etc, etc. I don't think we're going to put these 3 holes in here. If we have a look, I've printed this with 3 holes. Probably what would be better is just to tap the centre of it to make a pipe fitting. I think would be equally good on this size and probably a bit easier to plumb up. We're just going to put a rubber hose between the 2, I think. But that's the first part. From there, we're probably going to make a T-piece like this. If you can see that from there, we're going to make a T-piece like this, and a boss. Put a slot in the back of this to fit the T-piece in, and silver sold it all in one, and then chop it in half so it's all the same piece, I think. And we can machine it up and put it on the base. and set it up and bore it maybe. Maybe we might bore it first. So let's see how we go. So we've got this down to size this way. We need a shoulder out of there now that's got to be 140 by 700 to the next step on it for the front of the cover. So that's 3.6 millimeters, something like that way. So I've got a bit to take off it. Tapping drill size for quarter 32 is 218. There, something like that. We might just go with number 2 drill, which is 221. That'll be close enough. And this wants a bit of a start on it I'm going to do that first at 1/4 inch, just so that our fitting bottoms down nicely. Doesn't need much, but it looks a bit nicer and it just seems to work. A little bit better. So next job is to tap this. And this really only needs to be 2.4 mil thick, something like that. I might go for 3 mil, I reckon, just by eye. And that gives us a bit to clean up on the other side, which won't hurt. Slower than that. Don't have any advice about parting off, but if you are having trouble, get a better machine. Now, because this opening here for the impeller has to be offset, bit complicated, but it does need to be offset a little bit to give space for the water here and so that the impeller touches on the propulsion side to be any good. So it's not much either. The full size one's 1/32, 30 thou. It's about 25 thou, something like that probably. But the bearings need to be on the center. What I'm going to do is drill this through. Not huge actually. 3/16, 5/32, something like that. Probably if I drill this through 1/8, then at least we can see whether the solder's taken all the way through. And put a bit of a recess in there, I think. Probably just 10 millimeters with an end mill. Just to give that piece that we're going to silver solder in there somewhere to locate. So that's what I think I'm going to do there. And then we need to part him off at 3/8 of an inch long, I think is next. So we've got these parted off nice. This is the lid. It still needs a bit off the back of it and some holes in it. And this one's the body there, which should be alright. That still needs a bit off the back of it and machining out. It needs some pieces silver soldered on it, and I've left a recess there for this spigot here. And we might make all this in one piece and then cut it after we've machined it, I think. And that way they should all line up nicely here. So what's next? Probably this spigot that sticks in the side here. We need to set this up and spot it with the end mill and drill it through and make a piece to silver solder in on here, which is offset. Not a lot of information about how much offset it is. I've drawn that up in CAD, and I've got sort of a bit of an indication, but the middle hole here needs to be 3/16 for delivery, or a bit bigger than that. I think we're going to use the same size as we did here, which is number 2. We could just machine a piece to go on and sit on the outside and silver solder it on and then drill right through. Probably what I'm going to do is drill it first and then make we'll drill it as big as we can and then make a spigot to fit in there and silver solder around it and right through. And I think that would be really nice. So next job is to clamp this down on the mill, or in the mill. Probably that way up, I think, and find the side and then centre this and spot this down here. That's what I'm going to do next, I think. I'm probably going to machine this out with a groove here as well, so that this girder in here fits down to the same level as this, and that way everything's lined up when we silver solder it. I might do that first because it'd be much easier to get this lined up. It'd be much easier to get this lined up off this line in the vice jaws than to get it lined up off this hole that's internal. So we might put a groove through here first. This is, I'm really only guessing on here, but this girder here looks like it's probably 1/8 or 5/32. Let's make it 1/8, 3mm. In here, on the centre, it doesn't matter much its orientation, and then we can set that up and machine this one. So over at the mill. So, got this set up. Go a fraction deeper maybe. And that's the slot in there. The next job I think is probably to drill that parallel in the top here on the right side so that we get the right direction. Probably need to check that first so that we've got the right rotation. We don't have to cross the belt over. But that looks pretty good so far. And to save changing this cutter and everything over, probably I'm going to make this boss next. Bit of a think about this. Rather than put the cutter back on later, make this boss to go in here with the same slot in the centre. That might save some messing around changing cutters and arbors and things later. So I'm going to machine up a boss to fit this just out of bronze and put a slot in that next. And then we'll have a look at drilling this other hole. And that's that bush made. So I guess that's what we've got, which is basically it's going to be cut later and we'll put a gusset in here. This needs to be the piece that goes in here. Just a little rag on that. The piece that goes in here needs to fit between the slot on the bottom piece. If we have a bit of a look at the drawing, the bottom piece looks something like this. That needs a slot in it to match, and it needs to sit in a bit there, so it needs a slot across there as well. And then we'll make this piece in the middle to slot in here nicely and match, and everything should sit together nicely while we silver solder it all. From there we can grab it in the 3-jaw back here and bore it, and we can part it off, and then we can start thinking about putting a recess in here. We need at some point to put this pipe in here though, so that's not a huge deal. And what we've got is a reverse rotation, so probably what I'm going to do is put this over here in this other side and offset it the other way, because otherwise we're going to have to cross the belt, which probably isn't going to worry anything very much. I'm thinking if it does turn out that way, but a shorter pipe across here won't hurt anything either, so it might be a little bit easier to line up, not quite as much angle. So that's what I'm going to do, I think, is reverse the rotation of this. Probably while we've still got this cutter in, we could go ahead and we can make up a piece to sit in here. That's 1.25 inches wide according to the drawings, which is 15/16. So we'll find a bit of 1 by 8, I guess, brass, and might be the best. So after an embarrassing amount of time trying to get this all square and nice, this is what I've got. I've got this piece here with the T cut in it, and I've got this flat piece there and a spike mower, if anyone wants to pay attention. And I've got this piece that fits in there nicely like that, and I've got this piece that fits here. So we can wire all this up and silver solder it, and it'll be a nice job, I think, and we can slice it off afterwards. That's the plan. Now, the drawing shows 4 little gussets here we have a look, one there, one there, one there, and one there, and 4 on here. Now, while they look amazing and really nice, I'm really wondering about whether they need it. I'm sort of thinking it probably doesn't. It looks good with it on there. And probably if we set all these bits up in the dividing head, we could, or the rotary table, we could get the 4 slots in there without too many problems. By the time we scale them down, they only want to be about 1.2 millimeters, something like that thick. Do you want to put the time into it? Probably not really necessary. The little radius that we've got here in the corner is tiny. They're only about 1/8 of an inch long. So, not going to bother, I don't think. Next job before we cut all this, I mean, we could silver solder this in and clamp it this way up and bore it, but I think we need to put a hole in here, and it wants to be in this side as opposed to the other side, which the other one's got. Hopefully we can get this sort of right. So I think the thing to do will be to set this up in the vise, touch off the top and move down the required amount and drill this through to halfway, and if we look at it, this pipe here is 11/16, something like that. It's fairly big, it's 5/8, something like that. So on this one it's 5/8, which is it's quite a bit bigger than that. It's actually, if we look at it, it's this diameter here comes out the top, so it sticks a bit out the front, and that's where it wants to be. So I believe that this is going to be interrupted cut and that this is going to stick out the side, and we're going to make this nice fit inside there, and machine the outside off when we set it up, and that way we've still got a nice finish to mate on, and it's in the right spot with the curve on the outside. So it's a bit tricky, but let's set this up and have a look. So I want to press on with this. I'm not going to wait for the mower, it'll be another hour, so you'll have to put up with the noise, sorry. But I've done some maths here. If we put these together like that, this wants to be in the center of this, and it wants to be 7/16 diameter, and it needs to be 2.62 from this edge if we're going to set it up there. So if we bore that at 7/16 diameter, 2.62 from that edge, that should be the position this way. Now, position this way, there needs to be an offset, which I think is about 20 thou, and there's not very much information here, so I'm only guessing it. But I think the offset wants to be, the rotor wants to be tight, I guess, on this side of the hole, and it wants a bit of an opening on this side of the hole, and that gives us our offset down here. It's offset back this way a fraction to do that. Now, can we see that drawing? Probably not. So this wants to be touching up here around this edge of the hole so that the water doesn't just spin around there, and it wants a bit of a gap here, so our offset should be down here this way. It says 30 seconds, so it doesn't need much, so 20 thou, we're going to call it 20 thou. 25 thou maybe. And the diameter of this is, we've done some measurements, and the diameter is 1.762. The diameter of the impeller in the middle is 1.125, which gives us about 620 thou, something like that. 600 and... it gives us 637 thou. Now, I reckon if we make that 300 from the side, bore it in. So the figure I've ended up with anyway, with a lot of head scratching, anyone wants to build one of these, get in touch with me. But 410 from this side and 262 from the front, or from the back. 262 from this side and 410 from this side. That's what I got. So let's go over and do it. So a whole lot of brass swath later, I've got a hole in here. Not 100% happy with it. I would have been happier without this cut out in here, but it did move because brass is pretty grabby where it just runs into there. But we can silver solder that in there and face this front off, and that'll be really nice, I think. What I have discovered is that I've completely stuffed this up. Crappity crap. So, fix that. This is the side that it should come through. This side shouldn't. So I'm just going to fill this up with silver solder and probably a little bit of square rod or something in the corner there, and file it off later, and no one will ever know, I hope, if you don't tell them. So that's what that looks like. So putting it all together, we've got this. And this. And this gives us our little pump housing, which looks pretty good to me. So next job, and I'm going to do that before we finish the video, is to silver solder this up, I think. So I think the first thing is to silver solder this up. I'll put some flux around that. Just going to tack it, get him nice and warm, tack this side, flow that round there, and then I'm going to turn it over and, oh gosh, turn it over and probably sit it over the edge there like that and do the rest. So let's have a bit of a look, do some soldering. You're not going to be able to hear anything while I do it, so there's not a lot of point me showing much of it. You've all seen silver soldering it before. Big bushy flame, plenty of heat, plenty of, well, enough solder, and plenty of flux. So that's one side pretty nicely done. I'm pretty happy with that. We'll use a bit of solder on this, but should be all good. So I've silver soldered a little plate on top of that, and it all looks pretty good, I think. I haven't had a look at the other side, and I might. There was a little pinhole, but I think we've fixed that. So this is what I've got. End of all that. It's not too shabby, really. Could do with a bit of JB Weld in there before we put a coat of paint on it. Probably doesn't even need that, but we might do that. I've set this up experimentally in the 3-jaw with a centre and cleaned this up on this face, so that's nice and square. Next job really is to face this round so that this fits back on and face it to length. So that's what we're going to do next, is grip this in the 3-jaw this way around and just face this nicely so that that fits again, and get that back down to 3/8 of an inch. From there, because that will be on centre, we're going to bore this through 3/16 and run a reamer through it all the way through. I think it's going to be next, and we'll have a bit of a look at it when we're done. So I've got this set up here, just on here. I think that should run pretty true there. Because we want to clean this up here, we're probably going to use a boring bar. At some point we need to clean some of this bronze off here. We'll finish these couple operations first. And that's cleaned that up nicely there. Let's have a look at this. It's got plenty of clearance there. That looks really good. It's a bit sharp here, so I might just deburr that while it's still in the lathe. And that looks like it's supposed to. Did a really nice job there. Can drill that 3/16. Oh, you can drill it 4.6, something like that. Right through. There we go. Got a burr there. I'm going to take that off for a fire. I think the recess needs to be undercut inside. So at this point, I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bore this out to 1.8", and then offset it a little bit in the right spot, hopefully, and machine it with a boring bar on the inside or some sort of a internal cutting tool. I'm not all that sure about that, and that might be another video, but at this point we need 1.8" diameter. And 235 mil deep, something like that. So let's go ahead and do that. And that's 5mm. Anyway, that's what I got, and I think that'll do us. We're going to give this a bit of a clean up. Sanding sponge, I guess. And that might do for this video. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, all that sort of stuff. And if you're watching this on Patreon, a huge thanks, you guys. I really appreciate all you do. This pump's looking pretty jolly good. I'm going to take this out now, and another video should probably finish it. Be kind to each other.